Welcome, everybody, and thanks for being here for this. BYOD is a trend that everybody loves to hate. Your business users, they want the information they need when they need it, wherever they happen to be, and that's pretty annoying. They also want it on the coolest new mobile devices all the time. So BYOD really is more than a trend. It's actually a state of mind. And it's one that's continuing to challenge IT organizations worldwide. It's forcing changes in policies and applications, and even in our network architecture. Gartner predicts that by 2018, the growing variety of devices, computing styles, and user contexts and interactions will make that everything, everywhere concept and strategy actually unachievable for enterprises without some serious changes. Meanwhile, Gartner is saying that an unexpected consequence of BYOD is a doubling and sometimes even a tripling of the size of the mobile workforce. For today's panel, we're going to share some real-world examples about how enterprises are dealing with this trend. We're going to give you a little peek behind the curtain on how some of our vendors here today are dealing with mobility within their own enterprises. We'll talk a little bit about some of the security and other pitfalls that IT is dealing with in a BYOD environment. And our main goal is to leave you with some actionable advice on how you can prepare your IT infrastructure, your enterprise network for really what is becoming a bring-your-own-everything future. We know we can't make you love BYOD, but we hope at least by the end of this panel we've given you some ideas on how to manage it. And so with that, I want to welcome our panelists. Our first guest is Steve Brar. He's Manager of Global Product Marketing for HP Network. Come and join us. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Have a seat. And our next guest is Brian Robison. He is the Principal Technology Evangelist for Zen Mobile at Citrix.
Thank you.
Have a seat. And last but not least, Mike Schutz. He is GM Windows Server and Enterprise Mobility for Microsoft.
Hi, Susan.
Thank you. And now let's get started. I've sort of established this as the thing that IT loves to hate. And I think what we'd love to hear from all of you is what some of the key pain points are from your customers around BYOD in the enterprise. So, Mike, why don't you kick us off?
Sure, absolutely. We talk to a lot of customers, including here at the event. And one of the things that's clear to us is there's a huge variety of people that are on various stages of the BYOD acceptance journey, ranging from denial to anger to despair and eventually acceptance.
It's really the stages of grief, isn't it?
And any big change like this really does require people to go through those phases. And so what we're also seeing is that there's a huge discrepancy between what IT thinks is happening and what end users actually admit to doing. And so a big part of what we're trying to do is help organizations realize that whether you know it or not, BYOD and consumerization is real. The other thing that as customers are more advanced in the acceptance and starting to deploy strategies around BYO is that it's beyond the device. It goes to the cloud. End users are really resilient, and they'll get work done however they need to. And they'll take data and put it in Dropbox or a public cloud service in order to get it to the device and to the place where they need to get their work done. And so it's much bigger than BYOD. Consumerization requires change throughout the organization. We're really seeing that reflected from our customers.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting that you say that because I was at the Information Week Summit prior to this, and then at Interop, and that's one of the key messages I'm hearing from end users everywhere is just how do we deal with really what has become a shadow IT world within the business side. So we'll get back to that. And Steve, do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I concur with some of these thoughts, and we are seeing more and more customers realizing that they really need to embrace BYOD, and they're realizing it's really about enabling the employee productivity as well as employee satisfaction, and they need to embrace it in order to remain competitive. From a pain points perspective, obviously security is one of the main concerns. From a network infrastructure perspective, which is really what we do at HP Networking, there's pain points around, how do I ensure a great user experience for folks accessing the network through the wireless network. Wireless networks may not have been designed to handle the capacity or the coverage that's needed with today's mobile devices.
Mm-hmm. That's a big hot topic, I think, here as well. How you manage that and make sure that you're not putting your entire enterprise at risk. Great. And Brian, what are you hearing?
Yeah, I mean, same with my colleagues here. I mean, at Citrix, we've been kind of enabling the BYOD market for, almost a quarter of a century now. Enabling people to work anywhere they want with any device they want and any application. And, here at Zen Mobile within Citrix, we're kind of at the forefront of, all these new fancy devices like customers want to use. And, it's not something that you can stop. If the guys aren't in front of your office with pitchforks and torches now saying, make it work, they're going to be soon, and you might want to get in front of it. So we've seen customers have a lot of issues, especially with HR and finance. If it's the customer's device, what are our rights on that device as a company? How do we protect our data? Security is a big key issue. And other things too, like do we offer a stipend? We had these corporate liable devices before. We paid for them. We paid for the service plans. And how are we going to do that on a personal device? So there's a lot of customers wrestling with those kind of issues, and we like to help them out with those kind of problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is a big hot topic, actually, especially when it comes to some issues around even tax liabilities and income tax. Is this part of your income as an employee if you get a stipend? If you don't, can you claim it as a deduction if you use it primarily for work? So there are a lot of sort of human components around this that I think are really challenging for enterprises to deal with.
Yeah, exactly. Even within Citrix, so we actually have a what we call a user choice program. When you're a new employee being hired, you can choose to either pick, the corporate issued laptop to you, or you can basically buy your own. And the company essentially it's a 3-year program. You can opt in, and essentially they set aside some money and they give you some money on your paycheck, and you can literally go outfit your office the way you want it, and then it renews every 3 years. So it's a very interesting type of program, but from a company layer and employee layer, it, like Steve said, it meets a lot of user satisfaction. I get to use the devices that I want to use, not whatever you're handing me.
Right, and there's almost an expectation for people coming into the workforce that that's the way it's going to be. I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about what your policy is at Citrix. That's a great segue, because I was going to ask you each to tell us a little bit about how all this works within your own organizations. So why don't you continue with that, Brian, and
Sure.
tell us a little bit more about the policy and the strategy around BYOD at Citrix.
Yeah, so it's a huge part of Citrix. It's what we do. It's what we offer our customers, essentially. So we like to eat our own dog food, if you will. And like I said, from hardware to operating systems to software, we have a great relationship with Microsoft for employee-purchased software at a very nice discount. So while I'm a Citrix employee, I can buy a copy of Office for like $9 or something like that to use. It's a great program. So it even extends beyond that. On the mobility side specifically, actually Citrix is very, very open. We allow you to use your standard device with or without any sort of device management control. It's kind of your option if you want. We can allow you to use your native email clients, if you will. There's some protection around that. And we also have our own Zen Mobile suite of collaboration tools that we build for mobile devices, iOS, Android, and Microsoft operating systems.
And how many mobile are all your employees mobile? And how do you deal with the access of crucial mission-critical business apps on the devices without any kind of management software?
Well, that's kind of what Citrix is known for, right? I mean, I'm sure a lot of you in this room are delivering critical Windows business applications to your users through technology like Receiver. And so, depending on the level of person you are, your access might be, or what application you need, it might be accessed directly through Receiver on whatever device you are. So it's really kind of a very cool work style where literally if you're sitting at a desktop, you can have this app running. You don't even really know it's virtualized or in the back data center. And time to go to a meeting, you pick up your iPad, you can resume the exact same session, the same document without having to save anything. It's it's a nice work style to be. I mean, you can leave, jump on a train, grab your phone, and again, resume the same session. So it's really kind of it allows us to live the work style we want. In fact, we've actually converted a good portion of our office infrastructure, our buildings and our seats and desks and things, to just temporary. A lot of people don't actually have a physical location anymore because we can deliver our phone services, our critical business applications, all of our work, essentially on any device, anywhere you are in the building.
That's a significant cost savings too, then. Interesting, great. And what about at Microsoft?
Well, as you might imagine, we're a technology company, and so we've got a lot of technology enthusiasts, and at the same time, IT still is challenged, like everyone in IT, with protecting the data of the organization. We within Microsoft have corporate issued laptops and PCs, but that's a small fraction of the number of devices that people end up using. We're fairly extreme on the BYOD front. Similar to Citrix, we don't buy any phones or tablets for people, yet there's somewhere on the order of 1.5 million devices that Microsoft IT manages either lightly or controls. And so huge breadth of devices across all operating systems, all form factors. And what MSIT did that we think we're helping our customers do as well is make sure you lead with the people. Like it's better to say yes than it is to say no, right? In IT, we get really tired of having to say no all the time. And so by embracing the trend, what the IT department did is talked to the various organizations, worked with legal and HR, came up with a set of policies so that we could identify classes of devices. And so there's the fully managed devices, primarily laptops, that are corporate owned. Then there's trusted devices. Many of those are contractor devices or even personal devices where we've domain joined them and applied certificates and so forth to those devices. And then there's a whole slew of phones and tablets that are lightly managed or unmanaged. We've worked on the networking side to deploy a parallel wireless network that has deeper security controls and monitoring so that those unmanaged devices can get access to what they need to and people can work from anywhere. And so the key was working across the organization and embracing the trend. And it's a lot better to say yes than no. The other thing is we focus a lot on the data itself. We're pervasive users of rights management and information protection because ultimately what matters is the data. And so the device and the application containers are ways to help protect it, but we really use identity management as well as data protection really heavily to make sure that confidential information is not leaving the organization, even if the device is compromised or it leaves on a USB key or something like that.
So you're managing both class of device as well as class of user, basically, and what kind of
who the user
accessibility
is,
they're
who
allowed.
the user is, what type of device they're coming from, and how much we trust that device, as well as the data and where they are on the network. And so there's lots of multi-layered approach that we take that we think is helpful for other organizations to think about as well.
Great. And Steve, tell us a little bit about how HP is dealing with it.
Sure. So
I'm sure your network has a big part of
yeah. Well, that's one of the advantages of being at a tech company that actually develops a lot of the technology to enable things like BYOD. Our IT organization has really embraced BYOD and is using HP networking technology to enable it. In fact, the environment in HP, we have over 100,000 mobile users per day. So it's a very large-scale environment. And we've gone through several phases of BYOD deployment. The most recent, in fact, is deploying one of our solutions we introduced last year, our Intelligent Management Center management platform that enables onboarding, provisioning, and monitoring of mobile devices. And since we've deployed that solution in our headquarters, we've actually seen a threefold increase in the number of users using the wireless network and bringing their own device. And really, I think that's being driven by the fact that we're able to deliver a much better user experience for those users, such as myself, in terms of getting on the network. There were some iterations where we would have to use a VPN or different types of devices, and those are real inhibitors to making it easy and a useful experience for employees bringing their own device. In addition to that, we see a lot of people bringing their own smartphones, tablets, and other devices. Our IT is pretty open in terms of the policy. They've given access to the appropriate resources via the network policy controls to enable employees to access the right things that they need to access, the right applications, etc. We've also deployed some mobile device management solution, which is optional, but it gives you access to those corporate apps that require an extra layer of security. In fact, just this week we announced some integration within IMC with best-in-class mobile device management partners, including Citrix. So we're really aiming from a networking perspective, providing a complete single pane of glass solution for managing a BYOD environment, and our internal IT has been very successful in adopting that.
And that really raises a great point, which is that the thing I think that is so overwhelming about BYOD for the IT organization is the fact that it has to be managed along with everything else that they're doing on a really tight budget most of the time. So what are some of the things that you're seeing in terms of automation tools or other ways that make that easier and take away some of that pain? And along with that, what kind of skill sets are you seeing required now in the IT organization to help handle all of this?
Yeah, well, one of the challenges from the infrastructure side has been the fact that the network is quite complex today. So anything you try to do, add new capability, enabling BYOD, it requires a lot of manual device-by-device configuration. And so with tools like IMC and automation, we're able to simplify that and create a single policy for a user and a device that can be applied across both the wired and wireless network. So really the key, I think, in enabling BYOD from an infrastructure perspective is we really need to simplify the network in order to keep costs down and also deliver a consistent experience for users accessing the network. From a skills perspective, organizations do need to have training. We also offer certifications in BYOD that we announced this week, technical certifications, and those really help organizations with the people, process, and technology changes they need to consider when they're adopting trends such as BYOD.
And do you guys agree? Is the network management the key, or are there other parts of it that?
I think there's I'm sitting between the two guys here, but literally I think it's kind of the glue between the network infrastructure, the hardware on this side, the operating systems on this side, and me bringing in these devices all over the world. But I agree with Steve. I think the integration with existing management consoles is a very key thing, because this whole mobile thing spun up just in the last few years, really, and up until now it's been just kind of managed as a satellite solution, required special people, special training. But I think what's going to happen over the next year or two, and you've seen companies like Citrix start to do this, is it's part of a bigger IT story now. We can't treat these mobile devices, our smartphones and tablets, as different devices from a traditional Microsoft PC. It's just another endpoint. It's just another network port. It's just another capability. So we need to bring that into our existing IT operational functions, our existing help desks. So whether it's a little different as far as what is capable on these endpoints, they need to be treated just like another endpoint on the wire.
Yeah, I think we talk a lot about unified device management. I think as you think about really the user and delivering a consistent experience to them as they move from device to device, it helps make it easy for them. And then they don't have to go around IT. If it's easy, you'll be more secure, even though you're using devices that historically would have made you cringe. And so having that consistent end user experience through a company portal or a store, if you will, to let them pull the applications they need to be productive also helps IT by offloading a lot of that push that we used to have to do for applications. And so the self-service model really comes into play here and help IT focus on what's important, which are the policies that can then be spread across all the diversity devices. Similarly, on the IT side, having a consistent set of tools that spans PCs and then easily extends to these mobile devices lets you bring the tools and experience you had in managing in the traditional world and then make it modern in a lightly managed world of the mobile devices. And so I really do think it boils down to people. There's lots of tools out there. We'll all profess that ours are better than the next, but really it boils down to helping people help themselves as opposed to just saying no all the time. And so getting a plan around that, I think, is critical.
And it's interesting, you mentioned earlier, you have a very tech-savvy employee base. Does that self-service model work for every type of enterprise, where maybe the employees are not so tech savvy. They know they want this, but they might need a little more hand-holding.
If it didn't exist in our personal lives, it would be a lot harder.
Right.
The whole consumerization of IT is just about, hey, the things I can do on my phone and buy an app and get an app right here that quickly without asking IT to provision it for me. We just need to deliver that in the work world. And so it really is, I think, it's not just about tech savvy folks, it's everybody is getting more tech savvy, and it's just about convenience.
Right, and anyone who does have a problem can always ask their 13-year-old. So, well, we're starting to wind down. Unfortunately, I could talk to you guys all day about this, but we do have other speakers. So I'm going to ask you to just wrap us up with your one piece of advice. What's the one action item that you hope everyone takes away from this conversation today that might help them manage BYOD in their own organizations? Who wants to be on the hot seat first?
Sure. So, I think with BYOD, you really need to take a holistic approach and look at all the different aspects. It's not just about the infrastructure. It's not just about applications or the device or the training. It needs to be in a holistic approach. And, I'm going to go back to the infrastructure, though, since that's my area of expertise. And from a network perspective, I think that the key takeaway and what we're seeing is being a successful strategy for our customers is focus on simplifying your network. Focus on unifying your wired and wireless infrastructure. It helps both on the IT side in terms of lowering cost as well as on the user side enabling a consistent experience. And there's a lot of cool technology coming out from vendors now around new wireless technology with 802.11ac, which helps to increase the number of mobile devices you can support on the network with higher densities and better coverage and capacity. SDN is a big technology now that everyone's talking about, and there's a lot of applicability of SDN in the campus and branch networks. And with SDN, you can add new capabilities around security as well as optimizing the user experience for BYOD users.
Great.
So,
I wish we had more time. I could do an hour on 802.11ac, just that alone, but go ahead.
I think my key takeaway, and I've seen this just done literally hundreds of times incorrectly, I would say make sure that you involve your end user community, right? As Mike keeps saying, the end user they're literally our God now, right? Apple and Steve Jobs has taught us that the consumer is in power now. And if you don't involve them, if you don't train them, if you don't teach them what's available, they're going to do it around you, right? So it's better to offer it. It's better to offer the solutions that you have in control, and that way they'll use them. And make the security easy. Don't make it obtrusive. Don't make it invasive. Make it easy, and your users will love it.
Yeah. I fully agree with both of those. I think my main one are that hope and denial are not effective strategies. And so you got to get a plan. You need to embrace it. And for those that are embracing it, take a holistic approach. It's not just about the device. Think about cloud services as well. Think about the data itself and protection at all layers down through the network. And so, but the main thing is come up with a plan, engage your end user community, and you'll be a lot more successful.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you all. This has been fantastic. And thank you, everyone in the audience, for listening and indulging us. And I hope that we've given you some useful information here today. Enjoy the rest of Interop. Thank you.